Alright everyone, if there's anything that we've learned sort of in the wake of the last election, it's that the sensationalism of the dedicated, anti-Trump media has actually, I think, begun to backfire on people who don't like Trump, because what happens is that something like this, or like the Manafort story, the Flynn story we'll remember with what's his name on ABC, and there are a dozen other examples too. The sensationalism turns a story that's vaguely someone associated with Trump might go to jail, might get fined, or did something wrong. And because of their sensationalism, people think, oh, this time Trump gets impeached, and so they spread it all around, then they get really disappointed. I think it actually demoralizes people on the left, because when they realize that the story's bullcrap, then they feel bad about it, and they're like, oh, Trump will never be held accountable. It's like they've done this so many times. It's not a joke. They keep doing this. I think they don't even realize how bad it is for their own capabilities. What happened this time, Steve Bannon, of course, Breitbart, comes out, he attacks Jared Kushner, who is Trump's son-in-law, and talks about how the people that were meeting with Russians at Trump Tower during the campaign, basically, they were guilty of treason. Now, first, let me point out one very, very important detail, which is that Steve Bannon is not necessarily an insider on every fucking thing that Trump or anyone associated with him does. The fact that Bannon predicts, they're going to try to impeach him based on money laundering, or this was treason for sure, or anything else, doesn't make it true. It means that it's the opinion of someone who, in the past, was associated with Trump. That doesn't mean that he's up to date on everything that he fucking did at the time. So that's the first point. Take it with a grain of salt. Number two, we've got to understand who he's talking about. He has consistently attacked Jared Kushner. He's never liked Jared Kushner. He certainly doesn't like Paul Manafort. When he refers to money laundering, he's talking about Manafort and Podesta. Now, it's been proven. They've already been indicted. In that case, Tony Podesta and Manafort are already basically being looked into for money laundering that happened years and years ago. When Bannon comes out and says, well, the deep state's going to try to impeach Trump on the basis of money laundering, I guess what he's getting at, here's what I think Bannon is getting at. He is assuming that they are, number one, out to get Trump, which, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. We've got to wait and see, I suppose, if we ever see any result at all. Number two, that they're basically going to manufacture bullshit evidence to try to kick him out on the basis that other people have already, that were associated with him have already been indicted or looked into, and that money laundering specifically was sort of there. I think his idea is that they're going to tie it in with Kushner and the others at the Trump Tower meeting, then tie it to Russia. They'll look into some obscure business contract from 10 years ago and nail Trump to the wall on it. I'm sorry, but I don't think it would work, number one. Number two, I don't think they're going to find such a connection. They're certainly going to find business connections between Trump and Russia, just like they're going to find business connections between Trump and the UK, the Australians, India, Brazil, and basically every other meaningful country that ever existed, because Trump was a developer, so he took investment and loans and things all around the world. Like someone could say, hey, I trust that Trump can make a return on this thing he's building. I'm going to buy into it. He builds his thing thus quicker, and then he pays me back over time. We'll have a contract. I make extra money, but I'm also helping fund something with Trump's name on it, and that's why I want to fund it, because I think that it'll work. That's how it works. He's developing things with other people's money, then pays them back, and then lives high and large on the rent on those properties he's constructed. Very, very smart. Once he's already got the ball rolling by being, marginally wealthy even in the beginning when he was still in Brooklyn, he had enough money to buy in elsewhere. He made a fortune. When Bannon thus says bad things, I think that people were assuming that he was talking about Donald Trump, but you didn't read the article if you thought that he wasn't referring to Donald Trump. He's referring to Kushner. But he's never liked Kushner. He and Kushner were seen as rivals. You remember months and months ago, when Bannon was still, aboard with Trump's, he was still in league with Trump. He wasn't back at Breitbart yet. And Bannon, by the way, has come out over and over again and said he's going to keep, basically running interference and lending his firepower to Trump. He's still doing that. But he sees Kushner as an enemy. He thinks that Kushner is going to take Donald Trump's presidency down. So he wants to tar him as a traitor. This is just normal dick-wagging between Bannon, who's a populist, he's more part of the new right, And Kushner, who is business Democrat, neoliberal, sort of old guard, he's establishment in a way. He's sort of still that elbow rubber with the stars that Trump himself used to be. Bannon doesn't like that. He wants a new guard of politicians and individuals, activists, media heads, with new ideas. That's why Bannon loves the alt media so much, because even if you don't necessarily agree with Bannon all the time, I guess he looks at it and says, well, they're still independent, and so it's better than, the old corporate establishment media is all basically controlled. He obviously wants to take Breitbart away from that, but then other editors are like, I guess they stand in his way and stuff. But he's talking about Kushner and Manafort, people who he never liked, or the Flynns. He never liked these people. Of course he's going to attack them. He's still trying to nudge Trump, despite not being part of the Trump team anymore. He's still working, I think, in a way for him by trying to nudge him in what he feels will be a more successful direction. He's trying to rip Trump away from the deep state and shield him from it. Now, he's just one person with one media organization. By and large, though, he does a pretty damn good job for the resources that are actually available. It's like Holt earlier. Posting about, he's like, oh, Breitbart lost a bunch of sponsors and Mercer and all these things, so haha, Bannon basically has nothing left. At the same time, though, I see people on the left basically praising Bannon. They're saying, oh, Bannon's such a great guy, and now they love him because they think he's attacking Donald Trump. He's not doing, he's attacking his son-in-law. And the Ivankas and the Kushners are not well liked by the more populist side of the Trump team. Trump had a fusion team, where on one end he's got like a Tillerson, or a Pence, or a Kushner. Those are people, whether they're relatives, associates, or they're appointees. Those are people that are they play nice with the establishment. They have more establishment views, a Jeff Sessions or something. Then you have on the other end maybe a Bannon, at times a Don Trump Jr. seems to be on this side, parts of the alt media, some of his other friends on the other end that are outside of the establishment. Some of these people have even been in office, but they have what are considered to be unorthodox beliefs. It's like if Trump were partying with Rand Paul, that would be not part of necessarily the establishment in many ways. Somebody who is actually, he repeatedly debates and attempts to troll members of the establishment. Calls them out on Twitter, sort of taking up a Trump tack on that, which, by the way, Rand, it's really wise. You should keep doing that. In fact, you should do it 10 times more often. Fuck the media. The legacy media, that is. Those of us who are younger and don't make 8 figures to defame people, generally, I think, appreciate you more than maybe a Fox News will. They'll just take you on there and make you a laughingstock if you give them an interview half the time. So no, this isn't the sinking of Trump's presidency. Some people are saying, oh, he's done for this time. Even Bannon's calling Trump a traitor. No, he's saying that treason occurred at Trump Tower in an instance where Trump himself wasn't there. Don't you think that Bannon would have sounded the alarm to people? If he really had a problem, if your speculation is true and he hates Trump now, wouldn't he have had problems with him before if he truly thought this was treason and Trump was involved? No, he's talking about Kushner. And he probably does want Kushner in jail. I think Bannon thinks it would be wonderful if that happened, because then Trump might come back to the populists. I see he's trying to sink the elements of the establishment, as he perceives them, that are associated with Donald Trump. I wish him, by the way, well in doing this, because Bannon himself sometimes comes off as unhinged, and sometimes is a little bit odd. He's an oddball character, that's for sure. And some of his strategic ideas I don't think necessarily are the greatest things to do, but I think that he actually believes in what he's attempting to accomplish. I think he actually believes the establishment is trying to basically destroy the U.S. and manage it into collapse and siphon off all our wealth, and that Trump is sort of the last great hope to stop it. And so I think he's going to fight tooth and nail continuously. If that means that he has to go after one of Trump's relatives, he doesn't care, trust me. So people thinking that this is, oh, the impeachment is nigh. No, that's not what he's referring to. He's referring to the Manafort indictment. Money laundering was explicitly mentioned. The left stopped talking about it because they realized, hey, these are charges stemming from stuff that happened half a decade ago. Manafort and Trump hadn't even spoken yet, and it involves, the brother of Hillary's campaign manager. Okay, so probably not the greatest story to actually promulgate, they thought, after about 12 hours of it being top in the news cycle. And that's how the legacy media and all the partisans operate. And the Republicans do it too. You know, if they're partisan Republicans, they don't want to talk about things that they can't spin in favor of their own ideas. It's just like, and Cornine of all people, Cornine himself points this out earlier. This is funny. Points out, hey, the Democrats, it looks like they're going to start campaigning for the midterms basically against the tax plan, and they're going to talk about how it's increasing the debt. Now, again, I said that probably would happen and be ineffective because there's no other way for them to spin it. They've already come out and been forced to admit. When people who are poor or working class see that they're paying a bunch of less money, they're going to be a little bit more favorable towards the Republicans. It's going to hurt the Democrats. The only thing they can thus do is point out the half-true, half-lie, that it's actually responsible for increased deficits. Partially, but the deficits were already there, and the Republicans will counter by saying, hey, you didn't talk about this or care when Obama was the president. He didn't do jack shit for it, so you can just shut up. At least now people have more of their own money. Hopefully it stimulates the economy. That's a winning line. So no, I don't expect Trump to be impeached. Bannon's not referring to him anyway. He's referring to other people around him. I'm not sure exactly what all the hype was yesterday. I think people were misreading the article. They thought they saw Trump there, and they didn't realize it was like, oh, Don Trump Jr. or Ivanka Trump. They thought it was Donald Trump himself, and so they got a big dick around it, and they started spreading it around. Then they realized their mistake, and they just shut up about it. That's about all. Peace out.